Right, good afternoon everybody, welcome to the Planning Committee.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 1, have we got any substitutes nominated for this committee?
None received, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can I remind members of the need to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or other interests they might have in relation to the items included on the agenda? At this stage, right, thank you. It is not recommended that the public be excluded from the meeting for the consideration of items of business on this agenda. Item 4, minutes of the meeting of Planning Committee held on the 18th of August. And
Happy to propose them, Chair.
Propose and
Second.
seconded.
Yeah,
Second.
propose.
Okay, thank you very much. Have that been noted? Yes. Okay, withdrawn applications, please.
Yes, Chair. Planning application 20/0024/CON has been withdrawn from this committee. Unfortunately, I uploaded the wrong version of the report, so the wrong version was printed, and legal kindly advised me that rather than do an update to complicate matters, it would be better if I presented it to the next committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Start with the planning applications. Sorry, I keep forgetting how to work my computers. So the first one is 19-01211 stroke FUL, land adjacent to the burial ground, Smithwell Lane, Heptonstall. Thank you. Can we have the officers' proposals, please?
Okay, that's myself, Chair. If you can just bear with me, I always struggle, but hopefully I'm going to get this right now. So. Councillors, are you seeing 2 slides at the moment?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Okay, just bear with me.
Slide
One
off.
slide.
That's fine, yes.
Councillor Baines, can you see it all right? I know in the past I haven't got it right for you. I take that's okay. Right. Okay, the first application, as stated by the Chair, is 19/01211/FUL, and it's land adjacent to the burial ground, Smithwell Lane, Heptonstall, Hebden Bridge, and it's the construction of 2 dwellings with amended plans received during the course of the consideration. Just to go through the points on this application before we then look at the plans and look at the photographs. We've had 4 letters of objection, 7 letters of support, including those from Councillor Courtney and Heptonstall Parish Council. The parish council had no objection, but they would like to see a covenant to restrict future residential development in the remaining parcel of adjacent land. As you will see from the report, that is not something that we can do through planning. That is a private legal matter, and if any application was to come forward on the adjacent land, then it would be assessed under planning policy in the same way as this application. Right, the key issues then, obviously the first important key issue is the principle of development. As you will be aware, this is a greenbelt site. Greenbelt policy is very restrictive on new build and is only allowed in certain circumstances. The key element for the consideration of this application is whether we regard it as infill land. Your officers have looked very carefully at this. There is actually 57 metres between the boundaries of 28 to the east and 22 to the west, and actually 72 metres between the existing dwellings. We therefore, as your officers, consider that we can't consider it to be infill in relation to the national planning policy and the local plan guidance. Highways do not see it as a sustainable location. However, they're happy with the internal layout and use of the current access, so that doesn't raise any concerns. Flooding and drainage, the foul is to be to mains drain and surface water to a sustainable drainage system that's yet to be designed. Residential amenity, again, it's been assessed and subject to suitable boundary treatments and obscure glazing conditions, then it is considered by your officers to be acceptable. Housing issues, as you're well aware, we have not got a 5-year housing land supply. Obviously, that's why we're all working very hard to get the new local plan adopted. Just to clarify, because you may see in reports a different figure for the supply we actually have, and the actual supply we have is 2 years at the moment, not 4.6, which is written in this report. So obviously, housing policy, it is looked at in terms of the MPPF without the supply and also with some of the existing local land policies being out of date. Wildlife conservation, it is a bat alert area, but no trees are to be removed, and development will include bat roosting and swift nesting features. Visual amenity, layout, design and materials. Again, this has been an important consideration by your officers. It's seen as a very important open gap between the settlements of Slack Top and Slack Bottom. We're not against modern design in any way, but you will see from the surrounding developments, it's very much of a settlement of traditional build. So again, we do not see the design as being appropriate for this location. Landscaping and trees, it's fine, and we can cover that by condition. Impact on heritage assets. As members will be aware, we are doing a lot of work at the moment on non-designated heritage assets, because we've got a lot of built form in the district, which may not be listed, but is very, very important to the character of the area. So although not listed, we do see the burial ground as an important non-designated heritage asset. You will see in the report there is a long response from the Conservation Officer that details her concerns on it, and obviously I'll talk a bit more when we look at the balance of consideration. Right, so just to the balance of consideration, I think the key points to point out is the site is not, in the opinion of your officers, considered to be infill development due to the size of the gap and the impact that the 2 dwellings will actually have on the character of the area and the openness of the green belts. The site would not be defined as a small gap in a group of buildings or otherwise continuously built up frontage. bound by buildings on at least two sides, so therefore does not meet the criteria in the MPPF. You will see in the Conservation Officer's comments, she concludes by saying, given that the proposal is unacceptable in principle on greenbelt grounds, there is no public benefit to outweigh the harm caused, and as such the proposal is unacceptable. And in her comment, she lists the harm that she sees will be caused by this development. And then finally, just in summing up before we move on to the plans, etc. The site falls on land within the village envelope of the Greenbelt in the UDP. The proposal falls outside any of the criterion set out within paragraphs 145 and 146 of the MPPF, and as such, your officers do not consider that the development is appropriate within the Greenbelt. We also feel that the height and position of the new dwellings in this undeveloped gap will not only lose the open nature of the site, an interruption to the long-ranging views, which is within a special landscape area, and also the reduction of the historic rural open agricultural setting. And you'll see that all explained in the report. Right, moving on then to the plans and photographs. This is the site in question, marked in red, and this is an aerial photograph of the site, and you will see that on the application there is also some blue land adjacent to it, owned by the applicant, and that shows you that in more detail. Here we have the east and west elevations to house one. As you'll see, a very modern design. North and south elevations. East and west elevation to house two. These are the ground floor plans. First floor plan. And contextual elevation there at the top, so you can see basically an elevation of what the street scene is anticipated to look like. Material study, and these are the photographs for you to look at it. You'll see highlighted is the burial ground, which we see as being a non-designated heritage asset. So this is a view from the northwest and north of the site. View east towards 20A Smithwell Lane. 20A a bit closer up east of the site. This is a view southeast towards Smithwell Lane from existing access track, so looking out of the site. There you'll see the view southwest towards 22 Smithwell Lane, showing that grade 2 listed building. That's a close-up of the building. So site from the other side of the road, just to give you the current street scene. And that's my presentation, obviously on the basis of not conforming with Greenbelt policy and impact on non-designated heritage assets, we as officers are recommending refusal.
Can you take down your shared screen then? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, members, any questions? Just put your hands up and I'll try and scroll across and see everybody. Paul?
Thank you, Chair. With regards development within the distance of a listed building, what is that distance, and does that not come into force at this particular application?
Sorry, Councillor, am I okay to respond?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Thank you, sorry.
Sorry, I drifted off then. Or what, yeah, go on.
I mean, there's nothing set in terms of distances because it's all about the impact. So you very much look at it in terms of the heritage statement and the whole impact. As I say, it's not only the listed buildings, but more importantly, it is the close nature of the non-designated heritage asset as well.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? No, no more questions. Okay, thank you very much. And trying to work out which screen I'm on. We have an objector to speak today? No?
No, Chair. We have Councillor Courtney as ward councillor to speak on behalf of the ward councillor. So.
Right, okay, so it's now Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I normally would not be in favour of greenbelt sites on the whole. I think it's important to preserve the countryside, obviously. However, I think that with this particular development, I mean, I don't know what the legal definition of the space of infill. I don't know what the distances are that, you know, legally for infill, if there are distances. I think I do understand that there is a gap there, but I don't think that putting houses there would look weird or out of place in terms of the gap. And I think one of the things that I know the parish council were concerned about is a larger development in that site. If other laws change, if planning law changes, if other legislation comes in, and I know that you can't necessarily always take that into consideration because who knows what's going to happen in the future. We certainly didn't expect what's happening now to be happening generally, but at the moment we've got some agricultural land which is being used for agricultural purposes by a family. I think having 2 family houses on that site will help to keep that land in agricultural use. I think that I would be concerned that if they decided at any point to give up that land, that it would be with different planning frameworks around, that it would be easier for something bigger and much less sympathetic, less sustainable to end up there. So I think that's one of my concerns, is that I don't think, you know, I'm not a planning legal expert, so I don't know what the legal definition of the infill distances are, to be fair, but I don't think it would. I think that wouldn't look out of place. I think another aspect that I really like about it is that we have declared a climate emergency, and these houses are, you know, the information about them is that they're going to be really low, you know, in terms of sort of carbon emissions, and the fact that they're going to be, you know, need not very much heating and that sort of thing. They've got green roofs. They've talked about SUD stuff, about the drainage. And these could be excellent exemplar houses that we could be really using to say, this is what the sort of thing we need. We don't have lots of land in the valley bottoms. I'm not saying that we want to completely take over the tops. Obviously we don't. I really value our open heritage, our open landscape. But I think if we are going to have any new developments, being able to sort of say, look, this is the gold, you know, this is a gold standard, this is what we should be working towards. And in terms of sustainability, not only sustainability in terms of sort of carbon and environmental issues, but also we need our villages to be sustainable. So we need young families to be able to live there, to be able to sort of populate the schools, to be able to, you know, we'll lose schools if we don't have family properties and families living locally. And it's not just schools, but just villages generally, you know, need you know, throughput and young families. So I think from those sort of points of view, that's why I would support this development and encourage it to go ahead. I think it's I understand some of the, you know, some of the things that have been said about you know, you know, and about building on greenbelt, but I think the positives outweigh those negatives for me personally. And as I said, I love the countryside and I love the open views. I think they've specifically said that the gap between the houses will be big enough to keep the open views and those amazing views that there are up in Slack. So those are the things that I really think, councillors, that I'd like you to consider on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also have the agent, the developer owner, Jenny Stansfield to speak.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you fine. Yeah.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Sorry to interrupt. Chair, have any members got any questions for the ward councillor before the applicant speaks?
Sorry, I'm getting far too involved in trying to keep the technology working. Good question. Have any of the members got any questions they want to ask Councillor Courtney? Oh, thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. I tend to find that a lot of people are usually in the Greenbelt area and between different settlements. Residents are usually very keen to keep some distance between the two settlements. And as far as I can see, Upper and Lower Slack is such a scheme. And certainly from my experience, that's what I usually get complaints about when planning issues are going to remove that sort of border between two settlements. Do you not agree with that?
Chair, am I okay to go back?
Councillor Courtney. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, so my understanding is that actually that this is in what would be known as mid-slack. You know, there's so there is sort of like, I mean, there's, you know, there's, when I very first moved to Calderdale many years ago, I took great amusement in the fact that there was a place called Slack Top and Slack Bottom, and I'm not, you know, and those are important. I always thought I didn't know which I'd rather live at, Slack Top or Slack Bottom, to be fair, but I think so. I do understand your point, but I think I don't think the gap is so big in this that they really become massively discrete settlements. I think that it's really very, you know, it's really not a very, very big gap. I mean, I know it's 57 metres to the boundary and 75 metres to the actual buildings, and that's a reasonable gap, but I don't think it's not massive in terms of settlements. Yeah, that's my opinion. I mean, I do know the area reasonably well, but to be fair, I don't know that.
We seem to have lost you, Councillor Courtney.
Yeah, I'd finished. I think that's all I was wanting to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further questions for the councillor? No, I can't see any. Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll go back to Jenny wanted to speak. Yes.
Hi, yes.
Thank you, Jenny. Sorry about that.
Not at all, not at all. Thank you. So as we said, my name's Jenny Stansfield. I've got Dan beside me as my husband, and we are the co-applicants along with my sister Jill and Simon, who are also on Zoom. Actually, you can see them below. So the field at Slack, where the proposal is located, is jointly owned by me and my sister. Our wish as applicants is to build 2 homes for our young families where we can live for the rest of our lives and raise our children in the area in which we grew up. The field has been farmed by our family for over 60 years, and we intend for that to continue for generations to come. As you're aware, there's a shortage of family homes in Hebden Bridge and Heptonstall, and the cost of these homes is being pushed ever higher by an influx of people moving out of cities seeking a quieter life. We're being priced out of our own hometown, with the few properties that do come onto the market being snapped up quickly at sums often way above the asking price. We want to bring our children up in our place of birth, close to our parents, so that they can be involved in the lives of their grandchildren, and so we can support them as they grow old. The proposed development would ensure that this can become a reality. We feel exceptionally fortunate that through the hard work of our grandparents, we've inherited a piece of land that would allow us to build our forever homes, made affordable because the land already belongs to us. Our key aim from the start has been to develop a design that is sympathetic to the character of Slack, as well as to ensure that the landscape of the area is not adversely impacted. We want to become an active part of the rural community there, and so from the outset we've engaged with locals to tell them about our dream and to involve them with the process. Before planning was submitted, we hand-delivered letters to the village households, introducing ourselves and explaining our plans. We invited our neighbours to come to meet us at the site on 2 separate evenings, and we even invited to a village barbecue, which we attended with the kids, so that people could get to know our families and feel comfortable talking to us about their concerns. Overall, we had a fantastic response, and at an initial consultation, there were no objections. Following the second consultation, there are only 2 local objectors, and the overwhelming majority of Slack residents support the proposal. We were invited to present Heptonstall Parish Council at their meeting last November, and as we've heard, it gained a unanimous recommendation of support from them. We're passionate about building in the most sustainable way, and to do this means designing 2 low-carbon homes that are passively designed, use sustainable modern materials, are timber framed with super insulated walls, yet respond to and reflect the agricultural materials of the village. We think that this is how we should be designing new homes in both a sustainable and sympathetic way. We're in total agreement with Calderdale Council that we are facing a climate emergency, and we were adamant that our family homes will be built with the smallest carbon footprint possible. We felt it would have been irresponsible of us to propose an unsustainable traditional build. So we will use modern materials and green technologies. We will also further offset our carbon footprint by planting trees in the lower portion of the field and create swales to decrease surface water runoff. Fortunately, we can use the whole field to fulfil these essential green measures without impacting on agricultural use. We hope that the committee recognises the contribution that our development would have to Hilltop Village life, where there is actual evidence of widespread community support. We believe its green credentials match Calderdale's environmental ambitions and show how development should be built in the 21st century. Your decision this afternoon will be a life-changing one for us, and we thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions? Still looking, any members, any hands up? No? Right, okay. Thank you very much, Jenny.
Thanks very much.
For your presentation. We don't need you any longer. Okay, thank you. Right, comments, views? Okay, sorry, was that you, Victoria? No? Councillor Clark, yes.
I did slightly twitch, and I was going to put my hand up, but someone did ahead of me.
Thank you, Chair. It's a comment, really. I'd just like to say that I really like this development. I know it's on Greenbelt, and it's a shame that that is to happen, but it won't totally destroy the view. There are quite a number of gaps in between the buildings that are proposed and the existing buildings. I don't think there would be any detriment to the great 2 listed buildings close by. And I think it's great to have this sort of development. If you look throughout Slack, you will see lots of different century design buildings, and maybe we should have 21st century designed buildings. I think it would be a great addition. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Hutchinson, was it? And then, sorry, I'll do it in this order. Councillor Hutchinson, then Councillor Curtin, and then Councillor Porritt. Okay. And I don't know if I've seen all the screens yet, so.
Thank you, Chair. I do think that we ought to be adopting a consistent approach to proposals for development in the green belt, and particularly at this location, where the ability to see on one side across to Hardcastle Crags, and on the other side at the same time across to Stoodley Pike and across the Calder Valley, really does give a wonderful sense that this is a hilltop settlement on a ridge, and it is a sizable gap between developments, an area that's never been built on before. And I would really think, I like the designs, I like the design principles, I just feel that they're in the wrong place. And I'm happy with the officer's recommendations that we shouldn't be setting a precedent here to what isn't infill development. It is new development on a virgin site. So I wouldn't be happy seeing this going forward. I'll be very happy with those buildings somewhere else in that area.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Curtin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would basically agree with Councillor Hutchinson there. I think it's a piece of beautiful green open spaces, this, and there's no point in having a green belt policy if we're allowing developments within the green belt. And I think that with regards to Mr. and Mrs. Stanfield, I think the quality of the development here is really good, what they've submitted, but it's just completely in the wrong place. And I've also got concerns about the character of the area, and that will be lost, and especially adjacent to the ancient burial ground. So I would second Councillor Hutchinson's views with all the officer's recommendations.
I'm sorry, Councillor Curtin, can you just repeat the last sentence? You died on me.
Yes, I would support Councillor Hutchinson's comment, and I would second the Councillor Hutchinson's remarks to uphold members' recommendations.
Officers' recommendations. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Porritt, then Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. I think the application does raise some really interesting points about the sustainability of our rural communities and what we want our rural communities to be, whether we want them to be living places that meet the needs of people, or whether we do want to sort of preserve them so that they look pretty as we pass through. That said, I think that presenting it as potentially infill is a stretch. Because it's, for the best will in the world, it probably isn't infill, and I'm really on the fence about this one. It's really, really difficult. I absolutely sympathise with the families, and I think there's a lot to be said in favour of the potential development. But I think, like Councillor Hutchinson said, it's possibly a really, really great development, but sadly they own a parcel of land that isn't necessarily the right place for this to happen. So yeah, I remain in two minds, sadly, but yeah, I'm very sympathetic to the applicants.
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you very much, Councillor. And then it's Councillor Baines.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree with Colin as well, which is getting quite consistent agreement with Colin. But I do think, you know, I've always stuck by the green belt, and it's got to be exceptional circumstances to go against green belt policy, and I don't think that this goes anywhere near. The fact that it's a good design and fits in with all the things that we want to do, it's very carbon neutral, etc. That is not a reason for spoiling the green belt. And if this goes ahead, I can see it being the tip of the iceberg for other similar positions in my own ward. You know, and I know the last one I can remember like this was in Hipperholm, and that was a fantastic design, similar to this, but it was still refused for the right reasons. So I would have seconded Colin, but I will certainly be voting for him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors wish to make comments? Yes, sorry, Councillor Bellinger.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, I agree with the design on this property is absolutely fantastic, and it's the way forward really with property designs for the future. However, unfortunately, on this case, I do agree with the majority of my fellow councillors with regards the building and development on Greenbelt, which we are supposed to be preserving. So again, I would go with the BE15 in the RCUDP. I'm also against urban sprawl as well, which would sort of like come into play with this as well. So unfortunately, I would also be going with officers' recommendations on this particular application, Chair. Chair, you're still on mute.
Stephen, you're muted.
I know, probably sounds better. Sorry, we've got a proposal on the table that has been seconded to go with officers' recommendations. So can I have a show of hands on that proposal, please? All those in favour of officers' recommendations? All those against? All right. Any abstentions? No. Okay. Thank you very much. So the application has been refused following off in line with officers' recommendations. Thank you very much. And we move on to the next application. Do people want to join or leave at this point? Okay. Thank you. It's application 20-00288 OUT in North Arham and Shelf. Demolition of existing buildings and garage to facilitate residential development of up to 4 dwellings. Councillor Baines?
Just to declare that I'm likely to know some of the objectors. I don't know if anybody is speaking against it, for or against it today, but being the ward councillor, I do know the people who live nearby. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Curtin? Sorry, Councillor Curtin, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
I recognise Mr. Holmes there as one of my constituents, and so if he's speaking on it, it's just to say that I just know him, that's all.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No, in that case, can we go on to officers' report?
Yes, councillor, it's me presenting again, so bear with me while I get my IT working.
Now how you feel? I've got 3 screens on the go here and I still need a 4th one with telling me what I'm supposed to be doing next. And I can't work that one out. Thank you, that's fine.
Just the one slide have you got?
Yes, at the moment, yeah.
That's good, thank you. Thank you. Right, members, this is an outline application with all matters reserved apart from access and layout. It is the demolition of an existing dwelling and garage and the land surrounding it to facilitate residential development of up to 4 dwellings. We have had 8 letters of objection, 1 representation and comments from Councillor Catherine received. The key issues are as follows in terms of principle of development. It is within a residential area. It is the redevelopment of partial brownfield land, so is acceptable in principle. In terms of housing issues, as previously stated, you are well aware of the supply issues and the fact that we no longer or at the moment have a 5-year housing land supply. In terms of residential amenity, it is only an outline application, so things like design and window arrangements will be considered at reserved matters stage. Having said that, we as an officers do an assessment of the layout that has been provided to ensure that it meets the various criteria in the UDP, and our assessment has shown that it does. In terms of, as I say, layout, we have a layout that we're happy with, that is in keeping with other properties that are by the site. In terms of design and materials, then this will be considered in detail at reserved matters stage. Highways considerations, we are looking that the access is fixed. Highways officers are happy with that. They have indicated some of the details that they would like at reserved matters stage, and I think at times there has been some confusion that this has meant that it's an objection. I'm sure Andrew will clarify if I've got it wrong, but my understanding is that they are supportive of the outline as it stands, but have suggested what needs to be done at reserved matters stage. Flooding and drainage, foul and surface water will be directed to the sewer, and this, the details of this can be conditioned. Ground conditions, it is a former coal mining area. There's no objection from the Coal Authority, subject to a condition on the need for intrusive site investigation and remediation. Trees and landscaping, again, it will be assessed at reserved matters stage. So we as officers are recommending the approval of this outline. I will now take you on to some of the plans and photographs. This is the site in question. You can see you've got the outline of the bungalow and the garage and the land in between. An aerial view of the site. You will see the sort of developments around it. With the layout does show 2 pairs of semis, so 4 semi-detached properties. There are semi-detached and also obviously terrace properties within the area, as well as obviously detached. So there is a good mix of housing there. This is the site plan, which basically sets the layout, and this is where we've assessed, based on it being an outline, that it does meet the requirements of the UDP. This is the view looking northwest, so we're into the photographs now. This is the view looking west. View looking southeast, and you've got the site indicated there. Again, showing the site and the view looking southwest. View looking south to the site. And as I say, we are looking to permit with conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we have the screen down then?
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Right, any members? Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to clarify, when it on the reserved matters issues, will it come back to planning committee for local residents to accept? Still quite a lot of detail missing, which you know, I would like them to have the opportunity to look at it and object against it if they have any concerns when we do see the final plans. The basic principle of the development I have no issues with whatsoever, and I think it'd be difficult to challenge that. But certainly the detail which is missing at this point in time, I would like to see it to come back to committee. Thank you.
Chair, just to respond, it is usual practice that if an outline application has gone to members for consideration, then we as officers do take the reserved matters to committee as well. But obviously there is always the backup of calling as well to ensure that we do that when the reserved matters comes in for consideration.
Thank you. Any other members wish to question at this point? No? No, great. Okay, thank you. I understand we have an objector who wishes to speak, or is it just councillor?
No, the statement from Councillor Caffrey, which
we need to be read out. Yeah.
Yes, and Russell Holmes is here representing as the agent.
Okay, so can you read out Councillor Caffrey's objection?
Okay, Chair, this is myself. This is Councillor Caffrey's statement that was sent through to us because unfortunately he's unable to attend. I originally called this into committee as the application was seeking outline permission to demolish an existing bungalow and construct new dwellings. The application did not provide any details of property type, number, dimensions or realistic access requirements. The site plans have now been submitted and outline planning permission is sought for the construction of 2 pairs of semi-detached houses. The officer's report indicates that at this stage only approval of access and layout is sought with all other matters reserved. The objectors are understandably concerned that the application is still very thin on the scale of the proposed properties and there are a number of concerns about vehicle access and increasing volumes of traffic manoeuvres. The amount of detail one would normally expect to see in an application has not been provided and therefore the reserved matters would need to include significantly more detail and information than the application itself. The objectors have raised some very pertinent comments about the property dimensions and scale which have not been specified. The lack of information means it is difficult to realistically assess the effect of any infringement on light or privacy. There is no mention of the types of materials to be used or if the proposed properties will be in keeping with the location. There are trees on the site, but no indication of these are to be retained. The objectors have raised concerns about vehicle access and the already overburdened highway in this location. The road is a notorious shortcut rat run from Queensbury to Shelf and beyond with very little in the way of traffic management, brackets, despite many requests. Whilst the officer's report indicates there is no Highways Department objection in principle, it then goes on to highlight a list of considerations which are not referred to in the application. These missing pieces, such as access, visibility displays and parking facilities, are crucial to local residents, as is the indication that the proposed parking arrangements would mean cars being reversed onto the carriageway. It has also been commented that the site is too small for 4 properties, an appropriate area for amenity stroke recreational space for each dwelling. The objectors are not against the principle of redeveloping this site and believe the current property needs significant refurbishment and tidying up. However, it is not unreasonable for local residents to have an opportunity to comment on what is actually being proposed rather than a vague indication of what might be. Obviously, I am familiar with applications for outline permission. However, if the application is approved in its present form with all the blanks as described, then objectors have lost the opportunity to comment on a more detailed application which may or may not address their concerns. It is unclear why the applicant has chosen the outline planning route rather than a full application. On behalf of the objectors, I am requesting the Planning Committee to refuse this application on the same grounds that it was called into committee. The plans are too vague to the extent they are an open book as to size and scale and access and whether or not the properties will complement or detract from the local area. Should the committee feel unable to refuse the application, I would ask that any subsequent application for full planning permission be advertised in the local area and be subject to a call into planning committee should this be deemed necessary, a local councillor request it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't think we've got any disagreements about that, but it will be coming back to planning. So we don't expect to have all the details at the outline stage. So I think yeah, no disagreement really about the need for detail, but it'll come later. Thank you, Councillor Bellinger.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I also have concerns about this application because to me it feels as though cramming 4 properties into a space of 1 property, which there you're going to have, possible going from 2 vehicles to 8 vehicles. So are we actually agreeing today on just the development of the site, or for actual 4 properties to be developed on this site?
We're agreeing on the outline for 4 properties.
4 properties.
But what size, scale, road access, parking facilities, that's all got to come back.
Right.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. A bit like Councillor Bellinger says, I'm concerned about the number of dwellings that are proposed. The application does say up to 4 properties.
Yeah.
Does that mean then at reserve matters or full application that it can be changed down to maybe 2, or even 3 might be better?
Yeah, the detail will be in that at that stage. So if we say that, you know, they can't come up with a design for 4 properties, if they can't come up with a design for 4 properties that we find acceptable, then they can. Sorry, say that again.
But do we have to accept up to 4, or can we change that to a lower number?
Okay.
In this outline.
Yeah, obviously you need to consider the proposal that's before you, councillors, and that's obviously up to 4.
But that's what we're about when we're
Sorry, sorry, Councillor Carter, I didn't hear that.
Carter? Clark?
Clark, oh, sorry.
Are you in trouble?
Hello.
Sorry, do you need that clarification? Otherwise I'll bring Councillor Curtin in.
Bring Councillor Curtin in.
Okay, Councillor Curtin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think we've got to remember here that this is an outline application. It does say up to 4 properties, up to 4 dwellings, but it could be 1, you know, at the end of the day. We don't know at this stage. But it's just an outline development, and that's what we've not got to forget. It's just the principle of development. The rest will come back to us as reserve matters, and I don't think we've got to the comments yet either, have we, Chair?
No. Councillor Baines?
Yeah, just to clarify a bit of local information. If you look, there's at the back of this, there are 3 reasonably sized detached houses, which I would argue is about the same size as 4 semi-detached houses. You know, they are substantial houses, but again, you know, it's to come back on the details of it. You know, they may come back and decide it's better to have 2 or 3 detached houses when they look into it for the final stage.
Okay, thank you. Is that all members? Screen changing is right. Okay. In that case, do we have an objector who wishes to speak, or a councillor who wishes to speak? No. In that case, the developer. Do we have an agent? Sorry, I'm not getting a response here. Do we have an agent or anyone who wishes to speak?
Yes, it's Russell. Russell, could you just unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah. Chair, thank you for the invite to
right,
speak.
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I've just found you on the screen. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. Just really to reiterate what officers have said, and Councillor Curtin as well, and Councillor Baines. What you have before you today is an outline application for the principle of up to 4 dwellings on this site. As already stated, you know, that doesn't mean that the developer will come back with 4 units. If he chooses to come back to you with 4 units, then he will have to justify the design, the appearance, the space about dwellings policies, and also the comments that have been made by the highways officer. But I would just like to reiterate, we have produced a plan for the highways officers to comment on, which complies with all the stipulations of T18. Unfortunately, that's not put forward in the report before you today. But I would just like you all to acknowledge that the diagram in front of you with 4 dwellings on the site is fully compliant with T18. But obviously we don't have a full design of the properties, which shall be subject to further analysis after consideration of your decision today. I can answer any further questions that councillors might have if you wish to put them forward. Thank you very much.
Councillors, any questions? No? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Step down and we will move on to councillors' comments, proposals. Councillor Curtin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Taking everything into consideration and what we've heard this afternoon, there's absolutely no reason why we should refuse this application. So I would be quite happy to move officers' recommendations to permit. I think clearly people will get the opportunity to make further comments when reserved matters come back to the council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bellinger.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Now that I've had clarity on my question, I'm happy to second Councillor Curtin's proposal to move officers' recommendations to permit.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments or any amendments? I can't see anybody indicating. In that case, can we go to the vote? All those in favour of the proposal to go with officers' recommendations, please show. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. In that case, it's permitted as per officers' recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and sorry, excuse me while I skim through the papers. Right, the next application is 20-00751 FUL, which is the demolition of the existing bus station and replacement with a new facility to be located on the existing site, including passenger entrance and concourse buildings, retention and incorporation of listed structures on site, associated public realm and landscape works and highway junction works, vehicle access to be relocated to Winding Road. So that's the bus station at Northgate. And can we have the officer's report, please?
Afternoon, Chair. It's one of mine, so if you bear with me, I shall do share the screen today.
Sorry?
It's one of mine. I'm just trying to share the screen with you.
Okay, thank you.
Just bear with me.
It's all right. All I can hear at the moment is one of my cats snoring. He's terrible for snoring.
Just bear with me. Sorry. Can you see one screen?
No, we can see two.
You can see it's true. Does that help?
That's fine.
Great. Right. Basically, as I explained, it's the demolition of the existing bus station in Halifax for it to be redeveloped into a modern facility. The main reason, and one of the main reasons here, is to facilitate a much safer layout for buses and pedestrians. We've had no letters of objection, and I just got one update for you. We've received a very positive response from English Heritage, who's subject to the fine details being agreed, support the proposed development. There have been 3 letters of support, and they've been supportive in respect of the design, the layout, the provision of a multifunctional disabled toilet facility. So that's all positive. In respect of consultees, we've had no objections. Our conservation officer is very happy with the design. We've worked very closely with the applicant to get to where we are today. And subject to the finer details of boundary treatments and materials, which are conditioned, there are no objections. Highways too have been working closely with the applicant, and there's some interface between the Town Centre Phase 2 scheme, which came to committee a few months ago, but that will be worked out as the design goes forward. Flooding and drainage, again, subject to conditions. There's no problems there. In respect of wildlife conservation, we will lose some trees, but there's a significant amount of landscaping proposed. And within that, some biodiversity enhancements, including swift boxes and nesting boxes. So there's no objections there. And again, there will be controls over demolition methodology to ensure that dust is repressed and doesn't cause a problem on the site. So just quickly running through the slides, I think you're all aware where the site is, to the north of Halifax. It does lie within the Halifax Town Conservation Area, and there are 3 listed buildings in the site, which are the Siren School facade, the Siren Congregational Church, and the Siren Sunday School site. Now, all those are just facades, and apart from some small detailing to the Sunday School and the school, there's no real changes to those facades. So just to give you an aerial view and to remind you, those who probably don't use the bus station on a regular basis, the site slopes this way down towards Sainsbury's from the Broad Street end. And looking up, you can see the slope here, looking up to Broad Street, you'll see that the existing bus station has a number of island bus stands arrangements which require pedestrians to cross the path of oncoming buses. Bus station also includes ancillary accommodation for a travel centre, newsagents, public toilets, staff facilities and driver facilities. These will be reincorporated within the new development. Just looking down Broad Street, and you'll see the entrance and exit at the top of the site, and you can just about make out there the existing travel centre. Just give you an overview of the site. This is a new proposal. So entrance will be off Winding Road, and there'll be a one-way system for buses coming out at Broad Street. The concourse will be replaced by a Y shape, which takes into slope, so it is a level access for pedestrians. There'll be an area of bus layover, and then each of the bus stands will come into the Y shape concourse. The access to the buses will be controlled by closing doors, and there'll be seating, real-time information available at each of the bus stands. So the main difference from the existing bus station is that there is just one pedestrian crossing which crosses the site, and that is from the North Dean Clough end into the site. But obviously this time the buses will be on a one-way system, and the visibility lines have much improved. An emergency entrance via Winding Road is included just in case there is a problem regarding any buses or any roadworks. the new entrance into the, or one of the new entrances into the concourse will be through the science school here, which will mean that the Lister building will be brought into use. So you've got Wade Street, the waiting area on Wade Street will be retained, although it's slightly changed. Pedestrian accesses will be provided from and through from Sainsbury's, and that'll be improved. There'll be improved landscaping and public realm there. So the cafe area will be in the concourse, and with the travel information, toilets, and there'll be a row of covered cycles also cycle provision also provided. The facility also includes ability to incorporate electric buses when they come along for charging. So that will be put in now for future use. I think that's probably, I can only tell you on that. So this will be the new entrance into the site. There's some alterations within the facade to facilitate disabled access, but not a lot of detail on some new windows, which will require details to be submitted at a later stage. Just looking now, you can see the modern facilities which will be demolished, which will mean that the Lister facade will sit better without these add-ons on either side. Very difficult to show you cross sections, but basically this will show you the new entrance with the Y-shaped new concourse behind, which is will have a sedum roof and will be glazed and will have timber detailing. So it'll be a very modern, airy feel to that development. So if you're within the site, these individually would be bays, and there'll be buses up to these. You've got stand-up triangular roof lights in the roof to provide more lighting and interest. A glazed link to the Sunday school, which will show where the new and the old start and finish. And again, looking down the site, it's very difficult to give you an idea of this cross-section wise. So just some pictures here which will give you a better understanding of what the interiors will be like. So you've got the glue lamp beams in the ceiling holding up the sedum roof with the roof lights, the real-time passenger information on each of the bus stands, with seating provided in each of the bus stands, a new travel centre and cafe facility which will look down both sides of the wire, giving much better visual view of what's going on in the bus station for the staff, and there'll be a much more light and airy affair. And lastly, externally, again, you see the sedum roof, you see the Y shape, which works with the slope of the site, so it's level access. And you see that the listed facade now stands much prouder and provides a really welcoming access from the wall shops. And there'll be cycle stands at the side there, and there'll be new tree planting, etc. So as I say, we've had no objections. All consultees are positive, and subject to some detailing with conditions, we are quite happy to recommend approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very difficult to see everything on just those photos.
Yes.
And I imagine there'll be a number of technical questions, but if members would refer those to the architect and the project officer, we might get more details. So,
shall I stop sharing, shall I?
Yeah, can you turn the screen on? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So at the moment, any questions for the planning officers? Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson and Councillor Bellinger.
Looking at the plans, it looks as if manoeuvring of the buses around the site would work, but I couldn't see any swept path analysis or any condition that should be requested before work goes ahead. Am I right? Or, you know, there was a large number of documents associated with this. What did I miss a swept path analysis somewhere amongst them?
I don't know if Andrew is still around. I can't see him on the in front of me. But Andrew, the highways have been working very closely with.
Andrew is there, yes.
I'm here.
Yeah, and he's happy that my understanding is that everything will work because we've got this new one-way system. It's very similar to other Yorkshire bus stations. But maybe, Andrew, you could answer that about swept paths.
Yeah, perhaps the applicant might want to comment later as well, but I did have sight of these during the pre-application process. As Anita alluded to, we had intensive discussions, but I did actually make the comment they weren't uploaded on the planning portal. So I think you're correct, they actually weren't there for public view, but I have seen them, and there is sufficient room for the large buses with enough margin for error as well.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for officers? I can't see anybody. Oh, sorry, Councillor Bellinger. Yes, sorry, I forgot.
All right, thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions. One, looking at the images of the design, especially on the exit of the bus station, is that exit going to be wide enough for two buses to leave at the same time? Obviously, one to go left and one to go right, because it looks, you know, with the images, it looks actually quite thin. I'll actually let you answer that first, actually, before I go on to my second one.
I'm not too sure if we've got two buses coming out at one time. Are you aware, Andrew?
Sorry, yes or no? Well, again, the applicant might want to comment, but on the presentation they gave to us and the drawings that I've seen, it's designed for one bus at a time.
I thought it was, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't, I mean, given the amount of buses per hour that would leave, I mean, and there'd be sensors and the signals, so they'd sense when buses came. So they had a sudden surge of 3 or 4 buses. That wouldn't be a problem. It's a modern controller in the traffic signals, so that could cope with the demand. So you wouldn't need it to be 2 vehicles wide.
I think my concern there is buses tend to leave sort of like on the hour, quite regular. And so if you've got quite a number of buses leaving roughly at the same time, backing up behind each other to leave a bus station, you know, if the traffic light signals are only going to let 2 buses out per time, depending on the length of time they're on green, then, you know, can't you envisage this actually being a problem? Whereas if you had, you know, at least the space to allow 2 out at the same time, you know, one can go left and one can go right at that junction.
Okay, can we ask the agent and the project officer to deal with this after they've done their presentation? Because I think it is a technical matter that's to do with the layout and design. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, before, yeah, it might be worth adding before we do that. Like I said, these modern controllers, they work with the sensors. So if there was when there are sudden surges in buses, they're programmed to account for that. And also when there's a testing procedure when they're installed any traffic signals, where the engineer sits there and ensures that they operate without causing undue delay to the buses and to other traffic. So I don't see it as being an issue. It's fairly standard stuff.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Any further questions?
Yeah, again, I wanted to add to that, Chair, if I can, but I'm happy to wait and ask later on if you want to proceed.
The next people up are the agent and the project officer.
I'll ask.
There's no objectors and no councillors, so we could go straight onto their bit and then ask them questions. Yes? Is that okay, Paul?
Yeah, no, fine with that, no problem.
Okay, thank you. And I've lost track of the names now. So who is it I'm asking to come in? Oh, it's Mark and Alistair, is it? Yes. Okay, so I don't know, you've got 5 minutes, but I don't know who's starting.
Okay, yes, it's me to start, Mark Organ.
I'm on it.
Yes, thank you, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to present. My name's Mark Auger. I'm a project manager with the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. I'm supported by Alistair Branch, who's our architect, and I'll pass over to him when I've finished my bit of the presentation. So buses are important to Halifax. There's 15,000 passenger trips a day and 800 bus movements a day, in addition to the many people who use other town centre stops. And the Combined Authority wants to encourage more bus use. We want to reduce carbon emissions, and this is an environmentally friendly way to travel. We have an Equalities Duty Act. We want all people to access the site. And we want to reduce congestion, even with the growth of Halifax town centre, such as the Sixth Form College and Northgate House. So this project will remove physical barriers for people travelling by bus. It reduces the slope. It's quite a sloping site, and as Anita said, by turning the concourse around through 90 degrees, it becomes level or near level for passengers to board. We can improve wayfinding and remove obstacles within the bus station, and we can improve toilets and add changing places facilities. So that all removes barriers for certain people who travel by bus. We can improve safety and security by having safe pedestrian routes and reducing the antisocial behaviour that happens now by bringing everybody together in one concourse. We can improve interchange with other low carbon modes, with cycle parking, real-time information for rail, and better links or better signage to the rail station.
1 minute remaining.
For the whole 5 minutes? I better hand over to Alistair then.
No, just to clarify, the 5 minutes is shared between the two of you.
Okay, thank you. We can improve comfort and satisfaction of passengers by improving the appearance, adding a cafe to the facilities that are already there, and providing much better weather protection. This project is good value for money. The DfT has already approved the use of the Transforming Cities funding for this project, which is 15.4 out of the 15.8 million. It's got a benefit to cost ratio of over 3 based on the DfT's own methodology, and it reduces maintenance costs and creates an income stream from the cafe. We'll work together to minimise disruption during construction. We'll make use of existing bus stops around the town. 6 stands will remain within the bus station for use by some bus services, and we will provide some temporary toilets and temporary travel centre services during the construction stage. The project's fully compatible with the A629 project. Indeed, officers from the council are on our project board, so we have very strong links with that project. It has significant public and stakeholder support. So I'll hand over now to Alistair Branch for his part of the presentation.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Chair and members. I'll try not to repeat what's been presented by, obviously, the planning officers as part of this committee meeting, but just focus on a number of key areas for your information. The scheme is very much focused on safety and accessibility by minimising pedestrian and vehicular conflict within the bus station. By doing so, what we've done is actually located the new bus concourse or passenger space on the south of the site, closest to the town centre, with buses manoeuvring to the north of the site from the entrance point to dedicated bays for passengers to alight, buses to park up in layover before they move on to the stands for people to board and then exit the facility. Pedestrians, as described, will only have 1 point on the apron to cross, with 4 entrances to the bus station, including the new entrance from the Science School back via the wool pack towards the wool shops. In terms of facilities, we've got an enhanced amount of facilities within the bus station in terms of retail, with newsagent, cafe internal space and cafe external space next to the Science School as well, to give an attractive south-facing external area. Safety is considered at all stands with automatic doors controlling passenger movements onto the buses and electric information being provided. The design has been developed to obviously cater for future capacity and demand within the scheme, and incorporates a fully enclosed concourse to again maximise the benefits for users whilst being sensitive to the heritage assets that are retained on site.
Can I just say you've got less than a minute?
Okay, that's fine. Landscaping and boundary treatments. Obviously, we've worked closely with the officers to consider both the use of materials that tie in with the wider town centre palettes and for the actual site itself. So in summary, we feel that obviously the proposal provides a strong gateway to the town centre with a contemporary pavilion aesthetic to the concourse, and a material palette reflects the heritage structures. It sensitively integrates the users and the heritage facilities on site, ensures that all elevations are a frontage, including the roof, provides that fully enclosed space to maximise the benefits for users, includes green credentials with a fully green roof, sort of timber structure, living walls and energy generation on site.
That's time, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. I'll be surprised if there isn't. Thank you. In that case, members, Councillor Hutchinson, Councillor Bellinger. That'll do to start with.
Thank you, Chair. I really welcome the real-time rail information being there in the bus station, because we want this to work as a transport hub. But there's I've got several questions about that. One is, will there be bus information real time at the train station? Or also, so, I do beg your pardon about that. Yeah. Will there be bus information at the railway station, and possibly remote access to real-time bus information from other main employment centres and the sixth form college and other places where you might anticipate bus users to need it? And also, for obvious reasons, people with visual impairment, blind people, partially sighted people, don't often drive. You've got visual displays of services within the bus station. What form of information are you planning to give for people with visual impairment so that they can make unassisted use of the bus services? I do have another question about the energy generation on site, if that's all right, afterwards, Councillor Sweeney. Sorry, you're muted, but I can ask.
Yeah, ask the question. There's a lot of detail here. Let's do this one first.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So who's speaking, Mark or Alistair?
I go first.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for the questions. It is our intention to provide bus and rail information as widely as possible, but it's not always in our gift. We will approach the college and others. We have talked about this internally, but of course it's their space. We have the technology, we can help them, and we can provide that information, assuming we can retain a small budget for this from our project. But you'll appreciate that we can't dictate to others where they put the information, but we hope we can work together on that. You'll also be aware that there is a rail station project as part of the same programme, the TCF programme. Colleagues are working on that, and I will raise that directly with them. On the visual, the audio information, we need to think about the whole door-to-door journey that people make. And I've just been listing some stuff actually this morning. Bear with me, I've got it written down somewhere. We provide quite a lot of information before people even get to the bus station. People can ring our Metroline service. We provide an access bus service for those that cannot manage the normal bus service. We provide companion passes so that it's free for somebody that needs a helper. We have staff, we have trained staff at the bus station, and they have been trained with accessibility matters to try and help as much as possible. And we continually engage with disability groups. We have a further engagement coming up on the 20th of October, and we previously engaged, and that's reported in our statement of community involvement. So we are looking at what's best. What people seem to want is they're okay finding out information in advance from various commercially available applications such as Move It and others. They can even find out what stand their bus is going from. What they really need is confirmation of where they are when they get in the bus station. And we have a system for that, albeit it needs replacing and updating. A nice big red button people can press with some recorded information that tells them where they are. We have previously tried using React and fobs and things, but the buses, there's so much going on in a bus station that it triggers all the different stands. They're not far enough apart. So we're looking still at best practice, but we think you can use QR codes and things, but again, if you're partially sighted, you can't really see them and you can't hold your phone steady over them. So we think the red button is the way forward, but we're going to continue that dialogue on the 20th of October with the disability groups.
Can I just ask whether you're including Halifax Society for the Blind for that?
I believe so.
Good.
Kirsty's nodding, so yes. It's quite an extensive group that we're meeting with. And
yes, I believe
our sorry, Kirsty. Our information, I'll let Kirsty speak.
I was just going to confirm that I think that they are part of the group that we've engaged with.
Yeah.
And just to add as well, in terms of the actual strategy, we've had an early engagement with the disability forum group during the early stage design, and as Mark mentioned, we're meeting them again in a few weeks' time to actually discuss sort of the detailed design. And one of the things that we do is it is about, as Mark says, it's the door-to-door journey, but within the facility, what we can control in terms of this development, what we do is we look at opportunities to incorporate things like wayfinding line, materials, colour and texture to help guide people from each of the entrance points through the facility to the points of where they can obtain information, but also to each of the relevant bus stands as well, and then colour contrast to assist users to actually move from the concourse onto the bus itself as well. So there is a very clear route to help users or particularly partially sighted users through the facility. And one of the things we've tended to do on other facilities as well is have a bit of almost like a pre-open day with the accessibility groups as well, so they get to experience and understand the facility before it's open to the general public, which we've always found is a really valuable tool to assist them in understanding that. But we are working very closely with all groups to ensure that we can incorporate their requirements as far as possible.
Okay, thank you. Can you do your second question, Colin?
Thank you, Chair. There's mention of photovoltaic panels in the documents, but no clear point as to where they are actually going to be located. And I just wondered what the balance was between the generating potential of the photovoltaic panels that you're proposing compared with the electricity demand of the site of the station as a whole, as to what proportion of the electricity could be generated on site.
Okay, Mark, if you want me to answer that one. Thank you, Councillor. In terms of the location of the photovoltaics on the roof, they are located on the south-facing roof above the ancillary accommodation building. So if you imagine in the middle of the Y, where you've got the ancillary accommodation block, they're sited above that for a number of reasons. One, obviously, that's south-facing roof, so we can maximise their potential. And we've actually got quite a significant array of photovoltaics on that roof. What we were trying to balance, I believe, sort of from a design point of view, is to have that renewable element, but also really focus on the other aspects in terms of rainwater runoff and the green aspects of the roof, really. So we can do things that provides a more sustainable approach to drainage and things as well. So we have that combination of green roof and photovoltaics. We are taking measures across the site to ensure that we are going with a fully LED solution for all lighting, so we can minimise energy use both for the bus apron areas and the concourse. I have delivered bus stations in the past before where we've had full arrays of PVs on the roof, but still not enough to power the full facility. But I think what we'd like to obviously indicate is that obviously we're trying to maximise as far as possible the provision of systems on site that will generate renewable energy whilst balance obviously the other environmental factors of the development. So it is a key component of the client's requirement to have that renewable aspect.
Right, but do you have an indication
I don't have
what generating capacity of that array would be?
It's not something I've got in terms of an actual proportion, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bellinger. Councillor Bellinger.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just going back to my concern, I've got two actually. Obviously, with regards the exit of the bus station, we say it's only wide enough for one bus to leave the station. You know, have you considered what would happen if a bus decided, you know, broke down whilst trying to leave the bus station? How that would impact then on the rest of the station. Again, obviously, because of the topography of Halifax town centre, it is on a bit of a slope. So again, single exit, snow on the ground, issues again. So obviously that's one of my concerns, which I do feel really should be looked into just a little bit more. The other is with regards the access to the bus station. Obviously, by the sounds of it, you're trying to encourage more people to enter the bus station via the wool shops through the wool pack, which is obviously that quite thin alleyway down there. You know, a lot of people that come into Halifax, we do have a lot of elderly residents in Calderdale that come into Halifax on Market Street. From Market Street, it's a nice level area to get onto the bus station at the moment. You know, what's in place, I can't really tell from the pictures that we've seen, but what's in place to obviously make it easier that people get into the bus station from the Northgate side rather than having to go down into the wool shops and access the bus station from there. So if you could just answer those two points, that'd be grateful.
Okay, Councillor. What I will do is I'll answer your questions in reverse, because I'm sure Kirsty can probably support me on your first question in terms of the interface with the bus exit, but focusing on the pedestrian movements first. I think I want just to be clear that we aren't prioritising any particular entrance. I think what we're trying to demonstrate here is what we've actually done is actually provided an additional entrance to the facility, which may benefit certain users who want to move towards the wool shops. We still see the approach from Market Street, Northgate as probably the primary approach, and that's one of the reasons why we've located the retail as we have, that is actually fronting onto that upper concourse area, because that's where we feel the biggest design line will be. I think what we identified early on was that people who do move from the wool shops via the wool pack currently approach the Scion School and then have to either go up the hill or up a set of steps to come into the bus station. We didn't actually want that. We wanted that journey to take you through the Scion School directly into the concourse. So I think what we're trying to do is provide a additionally enhanced entrance rather than saying that is the primary entrance to the facility. So hopefully that answers your second question. Just going to the first question. The issue of obviously exiting buses is something that we have discussed and reviewed as part of the design. And what we've tried to do is both marry the sort of the design and the requirements of the scheme to marry with the A629 Phase 2 works in terms of the pedestrianisation works of Market Street, to in essence have a larger pedestrian area there, than having quite a wide vehicle exit that there is at the moment. So what we've done within the design is we've developed a design that from a general day-to-day use will be for single vehicles. But in the event that there is a breakdown or an incident, there will be a gate that can be opened with an overrun area which will permit a bus to exit around that vehicle. So what we've done is try to balance the more day-to-day use of trying to encourage a more pedestrian-focused space with a single vehicle exit, which, as the officer mentioned, can be controlled via signals to ensure that buses are getting out at peak times without conflict. But if there is an incident, we can open a set of gates up to provide a wider mouth to the bus exit, which will permit a bus to get around a vehicle that could be broken down or stuck. Don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
No, that's fine. No, thank you very much. You've answered them quite well. Appreciate that.
I'll save you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody? Right, no, in that case, can we go to proposals, recommendations, comments? Councillor Bellinger?
Yes, Chair, after listening to this, I'm happy to propose that we go with officers' recommendations to permit.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Curtin?
Chair, yeah, I'm happy to support that, and in doing so, I'll just make a comment that I think this is a great proposal, and the existing facilities there in Halifax are very tired now, outdated and very cold in the winter months, so happy to support this.
Okay, thank you. Any amendments, please?
Chair, sorry, it's a really pedantic point. Councillor Curtin, when you say support that, are you saying you're seconding Councillor Bellinger's?
I am saying I am seconding Councillor Bellinger's proposal to support the application. So
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a proposer and we have a seconder. Do we have any amendments? I can't see anybody. If anybody else does, let me know. In that case, can we go to the vote, please? All those in favour of officers' recommendations to approve with officers' recommendations. And I think that's unanimous, but just in case, anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? No, that's gone through unanimously then. Okay, thank you very much. And if I can get the right bit of paper, I think that was the last item on the agenda. I definitely can't cope with more than 2 screens. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.